going on YouTube? So in the last video we had some questions, and I decided to answer one of them in this video about the Jeep's electrical. If you're new to the channel or don't know what this is about, I was just checking it out. These are some ideas that may help you in a not so radical vehicle, but this is basically an audio competition vehicle, and it's got a lot of electrical upgrades to keep up with the demand of that system. So we're going to go ahead and answer the question. So we were asked about going over the electrical in the Jeep and what powers the car audio system and lets it do what it does. So basically we'll start up front. This is a 1990 Jeep Cherokee, so this is going to be applicable for a few years of the Jeep if you happen to have one. Anyway, we'll start with the stock location. You'll find your alternator down here. I have upgraded that one with a 240 amp high output small case that bolts right in, and it's connected to my battery via two OFC 0 gauge power runs there, and it's got a splitter on it, and it's also grounded to the battery pretty well via a ground run right there to the bracket. Moving up top, we have, instead of the AC compressor, we have a JS Alternator's 270 amp, or 370 amp, I'm sorry. It's a 370 amp alternator, large case, and this one is also connected to the battery same way with the dual splitter here, as you can see. That's from ToolMaker, and that allows me to put two 0 gauge runs out of that, and it is also grounded through the bracket here and there on both sides. Two grounds on that one. So those are the alternators, and that's what's going to be charging the electrical system. So it's a total of 610 amps of charging power. Moving on to the front battery, this is a replacement Group 34 from Full Throttle. This is the stock size for the Jeep Cherokee, and we got our alternator charging runs coming in this side and our power coming out this side. So a lot of the charging kind of goes through this terminal and out, and this battery is just kind of a placeholder up here. It also grounds to the body and to the engine and the frame, and I have runs going to the back of the vehicle, and I also have these runs coming in from alternators. So very well grounded. The majority of the voltage, the majority of the amperage moving around in this is going to the rear. So I have basically 3 runs of power, 3 runs of ground, total of 6 runs from moving to the back to charge the rear battery bank that I'll show you. So that's kind of just taking the output of the alternators and sending it straight back. This battery gets charged, but it's not getting, it's not taking much load. Most of the load is in the back, so I have direct runs going to the back of power and ground. And I feel like that's important in an audio system, is to have just as many grounds dedicated as powers, because electricity works in a circuit, and you can't have a circuit without having your grounds. So, I see a lot of guys putting in a bunch of 0 gauge runs from the front, and they don't beef up the grounds. They just go straight to the frame and call it good. I always would do to the frame and run as many dedicated as you have positive. So that's how I do it, and that's so you can get these alternators to go straight to the back battery bank or wherever you got your power going. So that's what's going on with that. So like I said, we got 3 runs of power and 3 runs of ground going to the back. Grounds are ran underneath the vehicle, and the powers are ran through the vehicle. This 4th one powers accessories in the cab, and also goes to my starter. So everything has been fused. So that's quite a bit of wire. I think there's a total of a 1/4 mile of OFC 0 gauge in this car. You ran it all out, the power and ground, and you can see why when you get back here. So the power and ground runs are coming through my panel right here. You can't really see it, but they pop in there and they run out underneath, and they go to the battery. So these 3 are my runs from the front that are coming in, and they are fused again back here. You just can't see the fuses, but A lot of people will fuse their front battery and not fuse their rear batteries, and that doesn't make sense because the whole goal of the fuse is to protect the run of wire where it's potentially exposed to body parts of the car where it could ground out. And if you don't have fuses next to rear batteries on that run, the run that goes from front to rear, there's a potential if you were to chafe the wire somewhere in the middle of the vehicle, say right here, for some odd reason, you'd blow the front fuse because you'd be having power stop coming this way. So that protects your front, but you still have juice here coming in those batteries, and it can go right up to that, no problem, and short out that way. So you got to have a fuse here and a fuse there to protect that whole run of wire that goes through the whole vehicle. A lot of people miss that and they don't see why you need that, but that's why, because electricity is going to either go from the front to the rear. That's the common thinking, where you put the fuse up there to protect it from that. But you also can get current going backwards to that power run if you shorted it up there. So you got to have the fuse here and there. That protects both ends of the wire, no matter how big or small the setup is. If you got two batteries, you need to have fuses on each end of that charging wire. Same is true with the runs coming straight out of the battery to the amplifiers. Fuses. So that's what they all are doing. I believe in using fuses. A lot of people say it's a waste of amperage and such, and I know that's true. And high-end competition builds I've done, even this vehicle at one point, I opted out on the fuses to gain a little bit of more power current able to go through. But this is my show setup, and Steve Mead also hooked me up with these fuse holders. So I'm definitely all in for using the fuses to protect things, because if I ever lose an amp or something ever did happen, I at least have that safety net, and which is a good thing, because I actually found a few weeks ago one of these were loose, and these are the inputs for the amplifiers. So they get loose, they touch each other, you get a lot of current moving. These fuses will at least stop the current after a short amount of time. So getting back to exactly what's going on in here, those were the 3 power runs coming in, and my 3 ground runs come in, and they're on that end of the bank, and they connect in there. And I guess I can add on to this video some of the clips from when I installed some of this, or make a separate video. I guess we'll find out on how exactly I did that. But you can see those 3 runs in there. And the reason behind doing input of power on that side and input of ground on that side is to get even distribution of current coming through those batteries when you're charging. You're not all throwing everything on one end, and then this battery never really gets the same amount of charge as that one. There's some discrepancy once you go through the bank. So I put a ground on one end and a power on the other end, and that helps force current to go through the whole bank as it charges and discharges. I've kind of distributed my amp leads across the bar, and same with the grounds. They're kind of distributed, so at least we get some even pull through the whole bank. Generally these center ones are going to get more draw out of them because they're in the center, you know, but we evened out. So a lot of people too will put all their charging in one end and their amps on the other end. I don't see why that's a bad thing either, but I would try to separate as much as possible. The practice I do, I don't know, that's my theory behind it. So that's how I have these wired up. So we have 6 full throttle group 31s. These are the larger size batteries from the front, and they do pretty good. They power 15,000 watt setup very nicely, along with those alternators. And we got some nice bus bars for them, plenty of connections if we need it. So that is the electrical. So we have a total of 2 alternators and 7 batteries, and all OFC sky high 0 gauge, like what you can see here. And there's my hand next to it. So pretty good stuff, bigger than my finger, just about the size of my thumb. So that is the charging system. So this is just a quick video for you guys, because I saw that question, and what I want to try to do, hopefully in the future, is if I see a question I like in a comment somewhere on one of the videos, maybe we'll make separate videos to answer those questions as we go. So if I like the question, I'll take some time out. Anyway, hopefully that answers you guys' questions on what's in this, what's powering it. We basically have 600 amps of charging, and around I would say probably 900 amp hours or 800 amp hours of battery capacity, somewhere in that range total. So that kind of gives you an idea. The math says to power 15,000 watts on a 12 volt system should have around, I think it was like 1,500 amp hours of capacity. So I am short on amp hours, but in reality this does the job pretty good, as long as I don't clip the amps too hard. My voltage stays pretty strong. So this is the build. If you haven't seen videos of this playing, I suggest you go check out the rest of the channel. We got a pretty cool video of it finally up on 15,000 watts of power doing its thing. Got some cool doors, and then this whole thing is running 612s. Pretty awesome. And before we end the video here, I'll show you the resting voltage. The batteries are sitting at 13.1 volts and they haven't been charged for about 3 days, so they're pretty happy right there. Anyway, hope you learned something and enjoyed the video. If you got questions, then we might make another video. Till then, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this nice day.